Hello, everyone. Welcome to Traveling Molly's virtual reading. Excited to be here tonight. And my name's DeGenova, and my partner is Nina Corwin. Nina, are you there?
There, I'm here. Welcome everybody to the year that was supposed to be the respite from the year before. At least everyone here is live in one way or another. I'm really excited to have our features tonight, Idris Goodwin and old friend Kevin Coval, and an open mic, and welcome to you all. At least we're starting it out in style.
Yeah, for anybody out there in YouTube land who's new to Traveling Molly's, we're going to start with an open mic and then bring out our features for tonight, Idris Goodwin and Kevin Coval. But our open mic will go first, and usually Nina Corwin and I start things off so nobody in the open mic has to go first. So Nina, do you want to start tonight?
Would you mind doing it, because I just lost what I thought I had to read, so.
That's no problem.
Great.
We're always a little loose at Molly's. Tonight I'm going to read something that's brand new and very short and almost, I wouldn't say glib, but it's not as serious as a lot of the things that I write. This is called The New Chapter Heading. Faces and places are closer than they appear, though shrinking in the side view mirror. The road ahead is blank paper, freshly paved without a double line. I can drift from side to side, pretend to be in Britain, learn to drive lefty, or stay centered, focused on my vanishing point, still days and days of driving ahead. I set the cruise control, stretch my legs, the brake abandoned, neon midnights whizzing by. Thank you for the silent applause. The title of that was going to be Looming Retirement, but that was too obvious.
As Barry Selesky would say, it's subject declarative, which is apparently a bad thing. I see his point. So I was thinking of what I could read that would be appropriate to the times and not too grim. And I realized there's something in this book here, a poem called Burial Space Filled, Town Outlaws Dying. I think that's probably a little too real for us. This one's called Inclement. Again, the dream of broken teeth. I wait to find the waterbed has sprung a leak, no right side to roll out of. My cell phone's turned passive aggressive. The cat throws up in my shoe. Mercury has entered a dead zone, the circuits, all of them down. There's a crack in the ceiling, rain enough to deluge an arc. I try to recall how I might have invoked this cosmic displeasure, the sneeze, unblessed, inspection sticker out of date. And then the warnings, an elevator stuck between floors, the cross-eyed baboon at the Washington Zoo, the correlation of tea leaves with the wrinkles on the pillowcase. I can smell it on the breeze, between avian flu and orange alerts. Somewhere there's a voodoo doll with a lock of my hair in its fist. The famously accursed would agree if they could. Titanic upended, Anne Boleyn waltzing with the executioner, finger of blood in the sheets. The morning paper never comes. No news is good news. Thank you. So, are we ready? Let's see where we start. How about Richard Nestor? Will you get us going?
I answered in the affirmative, be glad to do it. I want to thank the Mollies for inviting me. I'm going to read 2 poems about reading in various situations. The first one is called Lap Time. They knew I was one of them, the snot-nosed kids at my son's daycare. It was supposed to be our time, his and mine, before I went to work. My last chance to read him a story. But we never got the moment to ourselves. As soon as I'd sit down, they'd come. A pack of zombies, creeping and climbing, backing in with their infant plagues, their sinister infections. Like most zombies, all they wanted was love from the sound of my voice and the warm words they got from a book in my lap. It was disgusting. All we wanted, my son and I, was time to ourselves, away from the world's troubles, and here they were, right in our laps, with their punk versions of the big picture, as plain as if they'd come direct from television. Snot-nosed kids with their need for notice, which is all love is when it starts. Notice me. Eventually, my son got tired of sharing what we had and told me to just go on. No more reading. I guess he knew the world would get us soon enough. It always does. And the second poem is called Storm Quiet. Whenever I see calligraphy, I thank God I wasn't born in a place where Chinese is spoken. I would never have learned to read. Wherever I see it, on placemats or greeting cards, in art museums or on chalkboards about to be erased, my head swims. So much poverty and plenty all at once. The word writing is not enough. Picture writing, we call it. But what stops a roof from being a bird? A straw here or there in a cacophony of straws. The skill to distinguish villages from villagers, stars from skies. Impossible. I need a language where letters become sounds, become words, become sentences, and not this sudden leap into thingness, like a storm, the too sharp reality of the page, its sudden fury and stillness. In war, disguise. In madness, landscape. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Let's see, who should we call up next? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Let's see. Patricia McMillan, are you ready?
I am. I love those poems, Richard. Mine are both very new. The first one is called I Love America, and it's one of those ones where the title is part of the poem, so I'm going to have to say it again. I love America as a husband loves his wife. That is why when she disobeys me, I must punish her. I force myself into her outer chamber, pushing others aside to get to her first. It hurts me to hurt her. When I'm inside, a friend snaps a picture of me with my boots up on her desk. I do not hide my face. Why should I? I know I'm scaring her, but I know also that it is my duty to teach her right from wrong. I hear her screams and beat her harder with my fists a book, a flagpole. I am not wrong. I am not stupid. I take a single souvenir, a lectern, an envelope, leave her a quarter, and go forth to meet my fate. I say that I am prepared to die a violent death, but it's more than that. If I don't die violently, I will be disappointed. Thanks. And this is called Why We Rejected Our Stepmother. Because she sang Happy Birthday wrong. Because she gave us the wrong presents on the wrong holidays. Because she blamed her fart on Mom's dog in Mom's kitchen where we wanted to be alone. Because she did not adequately fear either Dad or us. Because Mom's kitchen was not big enough for all of us, including Mom, to sit together. Because she had her own dog, and even if her dog ended up dying first, Mom's dog was also old and would die soon. Because she ate some of the cookies our aunt made for us. Because she ate red meat and drank red wine and induced Dad to do the same out of our presence. And when we told him it was disgusting, he said Mom had eaten veal, which we refused to believe because it was obvious he was just trying to keep us from rejecting her. Because the shoes she left in the front hall stank more than the shoes we left in the front hall. Because she moved into our house and slept in the bed Mom slept in and sat on the couch with Dad in the room where Mom died and on the living room couch with him in front of the fireplace where he once sat with Mom and us. And she put her things all over in the living room, in the kitchen, in the basement, in the laundry room, in the bedroom. Because Dad said he loved her. Because she didn't look or smell or sound like Mom. Because we wanted Mom back, and even if that was impossible, her being there made it more impossible. Because she sometimes signed greeting cards using the L word, and sometimes not. Because she didn't have her own kids. All she had were nieces and nephews and sisters and brothers-in-law from out of town, and we only met most of them once at the wedding, and we didn't like them. Because after Mom's dog died, Dad sold our house and we had to move our things to the other cities where we lived, whether or not we wanted or had use for them there. Because after that, he moved to a different house with her in another part of town where we didn't know anyone. Because she could see us on our video calls with Dad, even if we didn't look directly at her, which we didn't. Because her germs were not our germs, her viral load, not our viral load. And even if she never touched our newborn children, she touched Dad, which was bad enough. Because when her dad died, she cried. But when our grandpa died, she didn't cry, at least not in front of us. That's the poem. Thank you.
Thank
Yes.
you, Katie.
That was fantastic. I wonder how many quick writing poets have already gotten something on the events of Wednesday. So, Cameron, are you ready? Cameron.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice to be here. Great poems so far. I'm going to read from a longer piece. I'm just going to read like chunks of it. They're like disconnected sections. This piece just came out in Vice Versa, which is a cool e-zine through the University of Hawaii. It's called These Four Walls, a Quarantine Log. And it's funny to me now because it covers like the first 33 days of quarantine, which we thought was long at the time. Yeah. Okay. These Four Walls, a Quarantine Log. From my kitchen window, I watch Pete give his husband Wayne a haircut. Wayne clutches a champagne-colored sheet near his heart. Pete trims. Their two dogs weave around their feet, and Pete bats them away with his left elbow. Wayne's hair falls down the sheet to the grass, blows around in tufts. I like watching all the pieces of this scene. I'm a floor above them in the house to the north, leaning on my stove. Pete's turn in the chair now, and Wayne takes the clippers. I say to Iris that we should cut each other's hair. She says no, she'll grow it, and she is. It is long. Like travel brochures for places we might visit in the future, the dating apps show me what might be. sorry. It's hard to build momentum. I've been in quarantine long enough for potential romances to kindle, burn, and die. They have their own rhythms. In this 2D life, I'm an image projected on his scrim. He is an image on mine. The rubber never meets the road. I can't have another April day without pansies. Pansies are essential workers. On our first 80-degree day, I pay by phone for a flat. Curbside at the garden center, I'm masked and gloved. So are they. Now I have yellow pansies, hopeful citizens in my planters. They are immune. I leave one for Pete at his back door. Thunder showers douse it all night. When I was sick, there were no swab tests. Now that I'm better, there are no antibody tests. My doctor says, check back with me. I check and she says, check back. Quarantine is so long that it's divided into chapters. In early quarantine, I paid Iris to assemble a cabinet I had ordered. I used Goo Gone grout cleaner on my bathroom floor. We admired the new bathroom. When I look at that cabinet now, beaded and white with its polished nickel pulls, it looks like a relic. If my daughter in California falls ill, I will board a plane. If Iris falls ill, I will nurse her. If they fall ill at the same time, span 2,000 miles, I don't know what I will do. I will atomize. I order a bra and panty set. It's the most optimistic thing I do in quarantine. My mother's gardens are legion. She grows hydrangeas and trumpet vine, roses and black-eyed Susans, hosta and sweet alyssum. She labors with her plants and her weeds and devotes herself to their beauty. If you're looking for my mother, you will find her in her garden. Okay. Apropos of Tinder matches, I text my friend Mimi and ask her if she's ever dated someone 18 years younger than she is. She writes back, I would date a grizzly bear right now. Iris attends a Zoom seminar for credit at her future college. The topic is the COVID pandemic we are living through. Zach the dog throws up at her feet while she's introducing herself to her discussion group. I live in Chicago. I love languages and politics, she says. Then she mutes herself to ask me to clean up the mess. The day my mother is admitted to the hospital for an allergic reaction is also the day, it turns out, of the COVID-19 peak in Chicago. Something stung her in her garden and her throat closed. The EpiPen she jammed into her leg on the way to the hospital bought her time so the ER doctors could save her life. They admit her and give her a bed. My dad brings her books, a meal, fresh clothes, and a phone charger. He hands them to the nurse at the door. I see my friend Dora in the park. She's stopped near the water fountain. We've been friends since we were 10. She looks puzzled when I wave and doesn't know me through the mask, sunglasses, and hat. I announce my name to her. Oh, we keep walking past each other. On the day my mother is discharged from the hospital, the nurses wheel her off the floor. They steer her into the elevator and push the L button with gloved hands. My dad is waiting for her. I text her that April is beautiful, that she's living, that we're both still on this beautiful earth together, and that Bernie dropped out of the race as a special gift to give to her so the Dems can consolidate and win. My dad drives her to Walgreens to pick up her prescriptions. They return to their contagion-free shelter by the lake. I dream I meet a man where skin occurs, a place beyond masks. We're on the Riverwalk downtown, a normal year, a crush of people, and no danger. There it is, I say, cupping his thick beard. Here you are, I say, taking his hand. On this 33rd day of quarantine, I wake and shake the dream off, brew coffee. I don't know who I will meet at the end of the story. I know I will remember to wear my new, hopeful lingerie. I know I will be embodied. 3D. Blazing sun, Loved man with a name I speak. That's how I will know it's over. I will feel us holding on. Thank you.
Nice.
Thanks.
Let's see, who should we call next? Oh, I wanted to say hello to all our friends in YouTube land. We've got a nice crowd right now, and hope you're all enjoying our open mic before our features come on. And next, I'm going to ask Leonard Lunther to read for us.
How are you all doing tonight? Okay. Some short things. Counting song. Following my headlights in the night. 2. Singing with the songs between commercials. 2. The westbound lanes of this highway. 2. States left to cross. 2. And me, without you by my side, at the very best of times, no more than 1. This is an acrostic piece based on a photograph, Honoré Cartier-Bresson, titled Mexico, 1934. Dime, she wanted, lo que recuerdas de Mexico. Whatever your heart recalls about that first night, about afterwards, the sound of water lapping shore through the open window, our bodies entangled like seaweed at springtime, breathing no louder than walking the shores, hand in hand, through infinite fog. Dime algo. Tell me everything you've never said out loud. And the fog of war. It's late September in northern France. Nights are crisp, days comfortable, even in this heavy wool uniform. If there were trees left alive here, their leaves would carry the scent of coming winter in their rustle. It's late September near the Somme, and I've been on the line since August. Before that, I had 2 weeks leave with Mary Ann after we fought at Byzantine Ridge. We rotate back to Paris next Monday. She'll meet me, and we'll be married. It's late September. No bird sings across the wasteland we created. Fog rolls from the enemy side as the gong begins to rend the air. It's mustard gas, not river fog. And I struggle too late for my mask. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. Well, how about Viola Lee? You ready? Viola Lee.
Sure. Just two poems. Thank you, Nina and Al, always for bringing people together. Thank you, guys. Okay, so I'm going to read 2 poems. One's a really long one, and actually, I'm really sorry. I'm kind of in a not depressing mood, but they're kind of dark, so you'll have to excuse me. The first one is called, it's a longer one, and it's called dakguk, which is a Korean rice cake soup. Whenever it is New Year, my family will often travel to both uncles' houses, both my mother's brother and my father's brother, to celebrate by eating dakguk. How often I've thought of the word new as in New Year and how much attention is given to that word. But with every New Year, the other sibling, old, goes to sleep in that cold back room with all her children's worn suits hanging and those torn-toed, uncobbled soles of shoes resting on a vacuumed, carpeted floor. Whenever I think of the words New Year, my older aunts come to mind. And over the many New Years that have passed, if there's anything that lasts, they've taught me when preparing dakguk that waste is the opposite of gratitude. And when your body goes through something wasteful like war, everything becomes a resource and nothing can be replenished. Every New Year's, I've savored every spoonful of dakguk that my aunts on both sides have made my entire life. That milky white soup that always symbolizes a fresh start. It's flat oval rice cakes that feel like coins shared, each representing the wealth to come in the new year. How often I could see my mother and my father watch their family members cook on an open flame in each of their villages, rice fields behind them, miles and miles of walking to a market to purchase eggs, to bring back home to their brothers and sisters. My parents wondered when would luck come to them? When would they be handed the riches of their New Year's, the blessings of their hard-earned work? The eggs in the soup are fried into a thin omelet and sliced into strips to garnish. When handing a bowl to one family member, wondering who will come next, the roasted dried seaweed sheets cut into thin slices and then added in with scallions, green and white. It is often so strange what war and death do to the body. 2 years ago, well past, the grieving still lasts, and how both my aunts have outlasted their sons. Both sons passed around New Year's in the same year. Both sons died of a mental illness that we often choose to leave behind. My aunt on my mother's side now rests in a nursing home with my mother's brother sleeping alongside her. And if I were to go see them now, my aunt would not remember my name. Her memory is now the steam above the pot where I cook this soup that has been on the stove for hours and hours, cooking for my son, for my daughter, for my husband, cooking just the way she taught me, although not the same. I will never be the same. And then poem number 2, this poem is really short. It's called Good Grief. Good grief. Thank you for giving us the gift of your death. We mourned every day for years. It was another box checked on that ongoing to-do list of our lives. But we finally learned this, that love is a noun housed in the body, and freedom goes there too. Thank you so much. Thank you, Al. Thank you, Nina.
Thank you. That was
Thanks.
really nice. Strong stuff. Next in the open mic, Robbie Nestor.
Hi. I was inspired by what Viola just read to read this poem I wrote back in the spring around Passover. It's called Cooking Your Way Home. Today, while morning light still slants onto the cold tile floor, when the house is quiet, put on some John Prine tunes. Lay out ingredients for a recipe you've cut out of the paper every year, but never made. Salmon gefilte fish. At the farmer's market, choose thick bouquets of dill and parsley, woody twigs of thyme. Later, under your knife, their fragrance will bring the market home. Your mother thought that jarred was good enough. You disagree. There's never been a live carp swimming in your bathtub like grandmother's. Instead, use a food processor, boxed matzo meal, not just the brunt of a blunt knife, not even half as sharp as hers. Savor the intention. Join with generations of women making the same dish for 100 years, dropping soft fistfuls of fish bound with beaten egg into the broth, feather light and sweet. Can I get away with one more? Okay.
Yeah.
This one's called Ties. I'm stumped by simple slip knots, my fingers clumsy and untrained. I didn't learn till 10 to tie my shoes, and still my laces flap, escaping feeble bows. Yet I admire the patterns people make with string, the sheep shank, figure 8, cobra, Turk's head, monkey's fist, French sinnet, reminding me of verse forms, this strand woven under, this above. Now I hear that chemists have discovered how to knot a strand of molecules, only 20 nanometers long, according to the source I read. This octonaught defeats all efforts to untie its bond. We've grown so skilled at linking the invisible, and yet connections in the larger world elude us. Perhaps their very size makes manifest the differences we fear, as magnifying mirrors make the ordinary strange. Taxonomists of difference, we're distracted by obvious distinctions. So I practice nodding this to that, finding likeness where it never was before, learning from the spider who spins out of the substance of herself, a fragile net that shimmers in the sun, at once community and world. She's so deliberate, living on her art, how tenderly she wraps the flies she captures in a sheath of silk and hangs them by a thread for later on. I emulate her fierce devotion, build my network taut, if tentative. It's ties I seek, not to absorb the other, but to recognize the stranger in myself. Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to the Mollies.
You know, when you started reading about, talking about ties and knots, I couldn't help but go to the scene of the guys in the Capitol with their zip ties. And nothing is that hard to believe, but the idea that those were indicators of, you know, that they were going to be used to cuff members of Congress was just kind of like so many other things that have happened in the last week and last 4 years. That said, might be a good time to call Jim Madigan. Jim, let's hear what you got.
Thank you, Nina. I'm going to read 2 poems. And the first one, I felt it was a good poem to read because when Al was doing his retirement plans and he mentioned Britain, this one was just published in a British publication called The Angry Manifesto, and it's called Rum and Potatoes. The phone Bluetooth, the soundbar. I sit next to the window at Carlow College. Sun dancing on the pages of 10 Men Dead. Warmed, my eyes close. I begin to count them off. Sands, Frank Hughes, Raymond McCreesh, Patsy O'Hara. So what, says Miles Davis from the soundbar. And I answer in blue how the lives of the 10 were scrapped by the Iron Lady. I have learned if you're Black, there is no justice, none trumpets Davis. I remember a photo of Miles outside a club, his suit, jacket bloodied, his head bandaged. The music is now blue in green, as I consider Ireland, testing grounds for England in their New World colonies, and the spawned new country built on genocide and slavery. What price? Rum and potatoes. And the second one, which is maybe why Nina was thinking of me, is called My Country's History. Turn on the light. Look at the pig shit. We are choking on it. Look at the snake entwined with the intestines, food for the eagle. Look at the blood in the water. Look at the blood in the shit. Look at the blood of your friends, the blood in your history. Every night, I read my country's history of land acquisition, and before dawn, I dig up my yard. Every night, I read my country's history of treatment of indigenous peoples, and before dawn, I tear my blankets. Every night, I read my country's history of use of Black people, and before dawn, I rend my clothes. Every night, I read my country's history of profit of working peoples, and before dawn, I burn my shoes. Every night, I read my country's history of weapon development, and before dawn, I wreck my car. Every night, I read my country's history of care for rivers and lakes, and before dawn, I rip out the plumbing. Every night, I read my country's history of bringing democracy to the world, and before dawn, I pull out my fingernails. Every night, I read my country's history. I am choking on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was why I thought you'd be good to go next.
Thanks, Jim. That I wish I would have read a different poem after hearing that one, but that's quite all right. That's quite all right. Next up, how about Bob Chicoine? Chico, it's your turn.
Do that. It's great to see Kevin Coval at the Mollies tonight. I'm sure it's 20 plus years ago, but it feels like yesterday that he was the kid, the Wunderkind, the l'enfant terrible on the Chicago spoken word scene. And Kevin, you may not be l'enfant anymore, but I bet you're still terrible. In the meantime, I'm looking forward to that. In the meantime, we just got a bunch of shorties for you. Winter crickets. Saddest of all, when the old haikuist died, were the grave diggers who had to bury him 17 feet down. Every poem I write, oh love, is a thought I'm only asking you to finish. It amazes the mayfly how long we can linger on earth and still be ephemeral, still tell one another in some humor we have discovered how brief this will be. When Narcissus gives the pond a breather and wanders over to the abyss, he falls even more in love with himself. You're so quiet tonight, unsnoring the moon, I can hear fruit ripen in the garden outside. You're as silent as the pea in raspberry. When this virus is over, we are sure we will not miss the mask, but the masks may miss us. Lay laundered and folded in the back of a drawer, telling each other how warm we made them feel when they were wrapped around us. These days, I've stopped driving my car. The patriots are too maniacal on the road. Speed limits, they tell me, belong to the libs. Besides, this way I get to take the bus. and feel the gentle bump each time Donald Trump throws somebody under it.
Ah,
Whenever I'm told to hold that thought, I remember all the ways I held you, my old love. Even the way I thought was so light, so clever, that you slipped out from under. When Bashot's frog sits on Monet's water lily, the museum guard shoos him away. This poem doesn't want to turn the way you, clever reader, expect. It likes where it is going and wants to keep going there. The straightaway can be narrow, but also wide. Try cruise control. Besides, it knows Donald Trump will turn on everyone. Waiting for the coffee to kick in, my mind is as empty as God's must have been before creation. The abyss asks for once not to be bottomless. For this time you are falling through it, old love, and it wants so much to hear, to feel the kerplunk you will make. Sadie Hawkins Day. What shall I say if the moon asks for this dance? We didn't go steady, but I went with her the way when you get a crazy idea, sometimes you just go with it. Your wit is so dry, I hover a divining rod above you to tell if you've water anywhere inside. I'm sorry I continue to be only 48.8% right for you, but in your electoral college, I will always be your man. Unsure if you're the right girl after all, I can't decide which knee to go down on. Before tomorrow, I would wed thee again between the drawn out honks of a train. And if the train were as slow as the one that first caught us long ago, we'd have time to get in all we wanted our vows then to contain. If the furnace fails, we can build a fire. And if the fire goes out, we have each other. So let's just hope the furnace makes it through the winter. Let me make love with you 3 times tonight. First as priest, next as minister, finally as rabbi, because I so adore hearing you laugh, and you with your body will make aisle after aisle for us to roll in. When the Martians come to Earth to lay down the law, it will not be to halt our wars or our absorption with ourselves or our refusal to evolve. It will just be to tell us to shut up. Oh, I will. Thank you.
it is always a pleasure. Chico, the old days, talking about the old days of Green Mill. By the way, did we ever bring up the fact that Angela Jackson is our new Illinois Poet Laureate? Well, if you haven't heard, Angela Jackson, who's very dear to me, is our new Poet Laureate, and who knows, you might just see her here as a feature before too long. In the meantime, Deborah Edelman. Deborah?
Hello, thank you, Nina and Al. And thank you for including me here. I'm going to, I guess, be the prose reader since I ran through all my poems and now I'm into this project. I've read a couple pieces kind of challenged by something Michelle Morano turned me on to write about myself in vignettes in first, second, and third person. So this is going to be another one of those, writing about myself and my life in third person. I'm not going to be particularly political nor funny, so I'm feeling a little insecure after everybody who's read so far, but I'm just going to read this. And by way of understanding this piece, as came out in one of an early one, I am a camp director's daughter. Apologies to Loretta Lynn, but that would be my song, Camp Director's Daughter, and there's just a little bit of that in this piece. This called Earliest memory. Write about your earliest memory, the workshop leader told them. 5 words, no explanation, no further instruction. She appreciated that command for sharp focus, the chance to push her mind back in one straight shot past the clutter that was her life to her beginning. She was now in her early 50s, had 2 children and a full-time teaching job, and often during her commute on traffic-choked roads or while making dinner, she found herself trying to remember why she had decided to marry the man who was her husband, the father of those 2 children. Uncomfortable with getting too hung up on that sad state of mind, she would find herself meandering down the path of memory, detouring down all the disparate branches, her years of wandering, some of them lived in other countries, the love affairs that spanned a few continents, the languages she had learned and could speak, the adventures that had taken her from that wild mountain country in Uzbekistan near the Afghan border to Red Square and Kfar Yassif, to the far-flung corners of places from Morocco to Cuba, from Eilat to Michoacan. The decade in New York City, center of the universe, walking Manhattan from top to bottom, East River to the Hudson, amaneciendo en la calle, greeting the dawn in the streets after a night of dancing with her Quisqueyo friends from Washington Heights. There were studies and degrees and teaching jobs and publications and all those protests and demonstrations against wars and injustices, arguments, tensions with family and friends, friendships ended over issues that seemed so trivial now as she recalled them, and so many other things about which the act of remembering provoked feelings ranging from pride to despair to just plain bafflement. There was so much of the past to take her mind away from the inevitable dissolution at hand in her current life, trying to remember why, years ago, she had turned that particular corner, walked down that alley, why, unbelievably, for being such a smart woman, she had trod off so seemingly obliviously down a glaringly obvious dead-end trail. So yes, 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 thank you to that teacher for her instruction to go straight back, to do a chronological pull from that grab bag of stuff that made up her life and find the most distant thing she could remember. It came instantly, without reluctance, confusion, or shame. A memory from before she could remember any of those feelings. Wisconsin, Nemabin Lake, her mother, dusk settling in. A hot summer evening. From up the hill, the muffled thrum of so many kids, their counselors, settling into the day's final activities. Her mother held her close and they waded in, the water's chill in sharp contrast to the warmth of her mother's skin. She broke free from her mother's arms, plunged her head underwater and took her first strokes, totally submerged. She was not yet 3. She struggled to remember the details from a hazy picture she could still conjure. Was her mother's suit blue? Why were her sisters not there? Why did her mother trust that she could swim on her own? She remembered thrashing below the surface, the fishy lake smell, how she swam away from her mother's embrace, how she knew her mother stood behind her. The image was there still. Her mother, beautiful in her swimsuit, her black curls, full-lipped smile, and her joy. Her girl had swum. Then she wondered, going back so far to that summer evening, that if her mother could have known that she had so few years of life left and would be gone so early, long before her 4 daughters were all grown, would she have let her girl wiggle out of her arms? She might have held her even closer. How ridiculous, she told herself. No one has the power to see ahead, or we would all live out our lives so differently. Of all the memories, the most elemental, her mother, the water, her own first strokes. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Well, we have one more person in our open mic before we bring up our features. I want to do a little call out to all the folks watching live on YouTube. We've got a nice crowd there. And it's what's really fun about doing this virtual reading stuff is we get people from all over the country and North America. It seems we have some folks from Toronto tonight, so that's really nice. Anyway, to be our our cleanup hitter for tonight, Bill Yarrow.
Thanks, Al. Thank you, Nina. And thanks everybody who was in the open mic. You were all fantastic. It was a wonderful, wonderful open mic. I'm going to read two poems. The first is called 10 Tense Falcons, or Wilmette by Moonlight. Once in a fit of spades, the little money bubble broke the axe of the jealous sea into pieces too many to name. Off the coast of God, sick characters in search of a doctor foraged for sins and grunted for shrubs, followed by decades of maturation. Stuck on the runway, but having bleach fever, they settled for intractable housing. It was the Oregon Travail. It was dim sum theory. And this one is called The Scanner, Muting the Confusion, Punishes His Omnipotence. Held captive by plaid straps and slander belts, the unkempt debts ravaging, the tenuous deficits deranging, all the dirty gelid pert who trip a tired leg, odd celebrants of the translucent catastrophe, the good, the bad, the waylaid, the aesthetic dentist who's helping poison the talcum stream of fire, the little totalitarian in the fishing pit hanging on by the stem of his arrears, the mother in a lit suicide, the sawdust of placid questions, cushioning civilization's cheeky gilding, upending the dagger holiday gluttony has had surrounded with blackened clerics. In the Heracleitan stable of indefatigable need, the world sniffs obstreperous insects fornicating in the cushions of regurgitable remorse. Many attend the lip conference where the bungalow is water, but few the geography enclave where the screen door is a fabric grenade. The future is the counter-revolutionary brother's counterfeit pain. Love is a pop, pop, pop bottle farm. The concise bumps of theft live in the gut. The pacifist arsonists controvert the cobblestone clouds. Says Pulis Iridus, ensnared by heirloom horizons, we will no longer play your languid hand. Loose the souffle doves, gnaw and hew, hew and gnaw. Come on, bubble before your bilious organs begin the buttonless stuttering. You were concussive smoke's first choice in the stochastic darkness. No time for a volunteer conclusion. Stop, desist, quit giving us shanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
There are times that I think about what it must be like to be in your head. It's just a lot. It really is. But
it's a very fun place, Nina. You should please visit sometime.
Well, as you said, it really was another wonderful open mic, and we are going to have a quick break, an orchestrated quick break, and stay with us. We have two wonderful features who are going to be up in a moment. And if you happen to see their websites and or Venmo account information, you may want to pay attention. You may want to use it later.
Nina, I'm interrupting you just to let everybody know I will be posting all that information on YouTube and in our Zoom chat too. So.
And one other thing is, we just want to our thanks to Kurt Heintz who makes all of this possible and makes the wheels turn. Kurt, do your thing.
Okay, Nina.
Yes, yes. So I am so excited to have these two poets with us tonight, Idris Goodwin and Kevin Coval. Whoever it was, it was Chico that said something about l'enfant terrible, who we have coming up second. These two guys have done a lot of work together over recent years, and hopefully some of that's, you'll mention some of what that's involved. Both involved with young Chicago authors. That's been a boon to so many youth in the Chicagoland area. The first time I met Idris, I think, was when we were, I'm going to distort this slightly, creeping into the back of a country club to read at for a bunch of blue-haired ladies, which was intimidating. It truly was. Idris is an award-winning breakbeat poet, playwright, director of the Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center at Colorado College. In addition to the recently released poetry collection, Can I Kick It? He's had several publications from Haymarket Books, including Inauguration, co-written with Nico Wilkinson, Human Highlight, Ode to Dominique Wilkins, and the play This is Modern Art, co-written with Kevin Coval. He's appeared on HBO Deaf Poetry, Sesame Street, NPR, BBC Radio, and the Discovery Channel. His plays include And in This Corner, Cassius Clay, How We Got On, Hype Man, and This is Modern Art. Idris is the co-host of the Same Old New School podcast on Vocalo Radio. Idris.
Thank you, Nina, and hello, everyone. Can you all hear me okay?
So great to see you.
It's so great to see you, too. Thanks for having me. All right, cool. So you all can hear me okay. I'm trying a new microphone, and I don't trust it.
You sounded good.
All right, cool. New year, new poems. As Nina mentioned, I had a book come out. Louder, please. Aha, knew it. I knew it. I knew it. How about now? Does that make any difference? That's better. Aha. See, you see. So as Nina mentioned, I had a book come out about a year ago called Can I Kick It? But it's a new year, and I always believe that New Year's should birth new poems. And so I'm going to read some new things in various stages of development. You know, the revision never stops. But these are ones I feel good about. So I'm just excited to share them, and it's good to hear you all. You know, I lived in Chicago for a long time. Chicago was a very important part of my maturation as an artist. And so it's good to be even in a virtual Chicago space with you all this evening. I'm going to start with a poem that I wrote about the city where I'm from. Before I moved to Chicago, I lived in Detroit for a long time. I was born there. And a poet, one of your very own, she was the Youth Poet Laureate last year or a year before last. Her name is Penelope Alegria. She put out a great chapbook called Milagro. And there's a line in Milagro that inspired this poem. So her line is, "These aren't my city's lights to be falling in love with." When I return to Detroit, I feel cheated. Walking past the cement galleries, all Krylon aerosol kissed art palpable in the Motor City air, families smiling past alleyways we were warned against. After freebase exploded shards of disparity, pushing those with means miles north to quaint, quiet corners. When I returned to Detroit, there's some tinge of regret. I never made that drive past 8 Mile to witness the rhyming gods incubation, flavor Moses Malone's hip hop shop. Missed the front row exhibition of tomorrow's legends gathering crowns, my scant memories breaking apart like Jay Dilla deconstructing recorded past. When I returned to Detroit, it was to see my nephew's brother, sister-in-law, the last of a few blood kin who call it home. After so many migrated back to nest in the once Jim Crowed lands of murder scenes, or like me, who didn't see a stage large enough for all the men and women to play. A visitor longer than a resident, but when I meet others from the motor oil of temptations and miracles, there is an instant recognition of that great lake flow, grounded, crushingly, forgiving, practically, willing, begrudgingly, to assemble sturdily, infected by melancholy, knowing romance is not strong enough to buoy back all that sunk. But still, when I return to Detroit, I see the same life that intoxicated me on my dad's two shoulders, bundled thick in a winter coat, pointing at the floats who cast cool, dark shadows. Thank you. That's that piece. There's a lot of talk about, you know, obviously we all have these talks, you know, across cultures, and particularly for many marginalized cultures. There's a lot of talk about how do we work within this system? How do we work and navigate this system to come up? How do we come up? How do we get over? How do we get on? And so this piece is called Dollars Alone Cannot Carry Us. Dollars alone cannot carry us. Bridges were built and cement piled, roofs tarred as dresses pulled together by thread. Hay was rolled, bank vaults sealed full of coins. Cotton still liberated during breaks from Auburn College to make enough to move ahead like the mule pulling heavy blades through soil to keep it healthy, to keep it fertile, if needed, to be sliced open again and again. Soil grows the trees, the roots hold them for generations to cut down, to grind, to mash, to paper, to print. Dollars, the roots and dirt that grew us are still here. They speak of empowerment through finance, entrepreneurial liberation, but dollars burn easy like storefronts and rule books and playbooks for games forged out of relentless breath. Architecture starts inside one brain cell, but tree roots go deep toward the earth's core. Buildings fall like regimes, poisoned like progressive leaders, crowns melted to mere metal. We are leaves and branches who will expire and rejoin the soil like those before. So while we drift along like leaves and breeze, passing one another, misting our pollen, traces of the trees and soil that birthed us. Thank you. So I'm working on this series of pieces of what I'm sort of like these anamorphic pieces. Where I'm just like making animals come to life and talk like they're friends of mine. So this is just one of them called Maggot Brain, and it's in the voice of that fly that landed on Mike Pence's head during the vice presidential debate.
That's great.
That is so great.
Yeah, that's the piece, actually, me just telling you what the piece is about. Thank you and good night. No. Cool, here we go. So it's called Maggot Brain. Show businesses, shit I've been trying to land for half my 28-day life. You know how we crave light as much as dead meat. We have no words for partisan or politics, no forefinger and thumb to hold pens, able to bloody the bubbles or write in Kanye West. What had happened was, with only a few days to make impact, I saw the light bouncing off his baby powder white head and knew here and now against the tundra of his dome, my body would stand out. Who knows what he was saying? I don't speak your language. You don't know my name. Still the buzz I generate, evidence as a cold limb. This is a fly's time, though I will be dead by the time you read this, but immortality for a fly is second only to soft, dying matter to plant legacy. Our children who thrive on what you toss aside, but up here on the cocaine snowiness of his holy head, tightly planted, intoxicated by the vibes buzzing off his hair, white as an Aryan dream. My bad for the upstage, fam, but like the poets say, I am too fly not to fly. Thank you. There you go. Cool. Moving right along. This is we lost recently my favorite rapper. His name was MF Doom, and he wore a mask naturally for many years in the tradition, I would say, of he was in that tradition, I say, of like Sun Ra, definitely an Afrofuturist. And so been trying to kind of write these poems in tribute, and this is the first of them. This is called Space is the Place. Space is the place. Space is the place. Space is the place. Space is the place where gravity don't live, between notes that float spinning circles to the will of black infinite, where waves of light, waves of sound create icy asteroids built off the crystal breath, steam out the lips, lit off the limitless. Space is the place. Space is the place for black genius, only place infinite enough to seal the wounds, heal the mind, place for the iron armored to joust with spheres of influence. Space is the place. Space is the place to find the meter and measure life's beatdown. Space is the place. Ailments and accidents, its brevity, its lack of radio spans. Space is the place. Its posthumous infamy, its universal immortality. Space is the place. But space, the welcoming black canvas, unending tar species, forced breath through its home chariot stole us away to. Look up at the possibility of sound. Space is the place for reuniting the lost, for collisions of grandeur, collecting all the junk, all the discarded, ruptured satellite pieces, and performing alchemy, metallurgy, bringing it, fusing it with funk, burning the atmosphere to sing flame easily. The name of the game is light work. Thank you.
Sun Ra.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I got two more for you. This is a piece I read. The best poem I read last year was this poem by Noor Hindi. And similar to the Penelope Allegria poem, this is a poem that is inspired by a line from this great poem I read last year. The line is, metaphors about death are for poets who think ghosts care about sound. My ghosts play the saxophone, the big baritone, over bridges with slick rain reflecting the street lamp off the tops of their Stacey Adams. My ghosts can blow so much dust into their body and make their pupils morph into stars. My ghosts shine like a marquee of Fox Theater in the day my parents weren't yet my parents. My ghosts hit high notes, so high, so much altitude, even with the thin oxygen, champagne glasses might break. My ghosts are drunk, Dionysian, Borracho, Richard Pryor winos. My ghosts are tragic and hilarious and hiding behind a smile, fragile as a vibration, unstable as a vibration. My ghosts are here now. If you can, keep quiet and listen for where their heart used to hum. All right. This is called Definition of a Running Man in 4 parts. The running man is a dance, a move we forge to the top. These hot, cold beats turn to 90 plus BPM. Legs lifted like marching band members of a chaste tribe who stomp precise the time going off while staying here. The illusion of motion, trick of the eye, way more than a dance. 2, the running man is also a very angry motion picture of the 80s, a dangerous game for the coke and cable generation set in a totalitarian future 2019, where prisoners escape death, mass views, and bloodthirst. Yaphet Kotto is the black sidekick to the lead. Not fast enough, he dies before credits rise. 3, running man is also a question, as in, why was this man running if innocent? A running man must be guilty, his sweat the evidence, his blood a confession. Officers promoted judge, jury, and slaughterer of man empowered by the movement of his legs. 4. My son needed some batteries. So on with the mask, and I'm waiting my turn in line at Walgreens. Another set of eyes peer over the mask's mouth and nose, a stranger looking me dead in my eyes as I stand in line trying to buy portable power. What happened? The muffled question pushes through his mask, his eyes handcuffed to mine. I should mention this is Louisville, Kentucky, where I lived over a month ago, the summer of Breonna Taylor, where the protests have not ceased and the police that murdered her have yet to be arrested. On this day in this Walgreens, however, this man is referring to a different shooting in Atlanta. Same story, Black man, unarmed, police fire into his back. And I am trying to just buy these batteries, and this confused man, a former police officer, he says, doesn't understand. In my 27 years on the force, no one ever resisted. No one ever ran. What is it they don't understand about freeze? If they didn't resist, if they didn't run, there would be no problem. They do understand, I say. Our minds fire more negative thoughts than positive, a survival mechanism from our more primal days, which from the looks of things are not far gone. On average, American horror makes more than 700 million a year. America produces fear, consumes fear. We are fear. So that's why they resist, and that is why we run. Now, if you excuse me, I'm just trying to get this power. Thank you all very much. Those are all the poems I have.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow.
That's it.
What
Thank
a
you
way
all.
to end.
It's great to
But
be here.
I don't know, it's kind of hard for me to be done with you. And that said, I don't know, and that was the perfect poem to end on, but I shouldn't wonder what other animals you've written, you've given voice
Well,
to.
yeah, well, the next one, the one I'm working on right now, is it's a poem in the voice of Amy Cooper's dog.
Whoa, I cannot wait.
And then and then there's a companion to it, which is the bird, because the brother was a bird watcher, and so there's a bird, and then there's a dog. But I might combine them just call it. It might be a two-piece called Bird Dog. Anyway, I've said too much.
No. You know, that the idea of having the birds as witness makes me think about some of those fairy tales where, you know, the protagonist makes friends with the birds or the whatever, and they give back to the protagonist at such time as they need it. I don't know. I would love to see that series in some sort of way.
Well, I'll come back. I come back to the open mic. I come try these out on the open mic.
I would love that. I would love that if you did that. Now, before we let you go, so you have just the one full-length poetry collection, or?
Yeah, so Can I Kick It is pretty much my first full length poetry collection. I have a couple chapbooks. So Kevin and I actually wrote a book together called Human Highlight, Ode to Dominique Wilkins. And then I wrote this book called Inauguration, which actually we dropped on Inauguration Day 2017, myself and Nico Wilkinson, who's a former student of mine, who and you know is a good friend out here with me in Colorado, and we wrote that book together and dropped it on that day. We did a limited run of some handmade books, but you can get them the ebooks free on haymarket.org. And then I had a book that was kind of more of a hybrid. It was like a collection of poems and essays and essayistic poems and poetic essays that came out on Right Bloody, called These Are the Breaks. And that was like 2011, maybe something like that. And then, you know, I read a lot of plays, and, you know, I'm busy, you know, I just be doing stuff.
So here's a question. Now, all of you in the open mic and out in YouTube land, you saw that we posted Venmo accounts and some other things about each of our features. And because we can no longer collect at the door to pay these guys, this is the way you can pay them. We really do believe that poets should be paid, as crazy a thought as that may be. So you've got that information. It's in the chat, both in YouTube chat and comments in the chat here on Zoom. If you were to recommend one book that you would most want people to buy, what would it be?
Oh, that's very easy. My wife just had a book come out last week, which is excellent. It's called the Anti-Racist Writing Workshop, Decolonizing the Creative Classroom. It's part of the Breakbeat Poets series, even though it's not a poetry book, but her writing is mad poetic, from Haymarket. And yeah, we're mad excited about it. And it's really, I mean, it's for all of us who teach writing and are in writing communities. And it's a way for us to think differently about, you know, the 80-plus-year-old tradition of the quote unquote writing workshop, you know, that there's a different way to approach it that empowers everyone, that is truly equitable and truly, you know, models the sort of beloved community kind of principles. And so it's, when my wife and I first started dating and connecting at Young Chicago Authors, one of the things we shared was a love for June Jordan's book, Poetry for the People. And we were always saying, wouldn't it be great if there was a new one of these? Like, you know, there's not been another book of this kind really. And so so there's some of that flavor in there as well, but it's definitely also a memoir of her sort of journey as a student of writing, you know, and being in MFA school and graduate school at Iowa, and then teaching in different communities. And so it's a really spectacular piece of work. So that's my recommend for 2021.
So you're going to have to tell people her the author's name.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Duh. Felicia Rose Chavez.
Great. Great.
Yeah. I'll put the title in the chat here.
Yeah. Great. Also, I really wanted to.
I just did it.
Own books you'd recommend to interested buyers.
Oh, you said one of my own?
Yes.
Yeah, my last Can I Kick It? The last one that came out. It's really good. It's good.
All right. All
yeah,
right.
It's good.
You heard it from the poet himself. I really hope you will be back to share some of the. Give him a hand, everybody. See you before long. All right, so now we've got Kevin coming up, and so Kevin I've just known for years and years, since the beginning of his days around Chicago. He's an Emmy-nominated, award-winning poet and author of Everything Must Go, The Life and Death of an American Neighborhood, A People's History of Chicago, which I've got sitting upstairs. Thank you for sending that along, by the way. And 10 other collections and anthologies. He's the creative director and founding editor of the Breakbeat Poets imprint on Haymarket Books, and serves as creative director of the MacArthur Award-winning cultural organization, Young Chicago Authors, where he founded Louder Than a Bomb, the Chicago Youth Poetry Festival, which has been such an amazing experience for many people, but it has been for me as well, as someone who volunteered as a judge for so many years. What an amazing creation. And I know Idris was part of that as well. So Kevin, I can't wait to hear what you've been doing most lately.
Nina, thank you. Thank you so much for having me, you and Al, and of course, Kurt. Thank you for, tinkering behind the scenes. It's great to see all of you. Bob Chico is in the building. I mean, this is incredible. It's Nina, you gave me one of my first features at the cafe that you were doing in Printers Row, you know, that open mic there.
Yeah, I didn't realize that that was the case until a mutual friend of ours told me.
Yeah, yeah. So you know, I stay indebted to you and so many of the folks who are even on this open mic and in the Zoom. You know, when I was at the Green Mill, you know, a thumbs up from Bob Chico went a long way. You know what I mean? And I just, yeah, I just appreciate being here. Of course, it's always a pleasure to rock with my guy Idris Goodwin, who is easily, you know, one of my favorite artists ever. You know, just, you know, someone whose work continues to inspire me. So I'm grateful to be able to share time and space with y'all. That was a great open mic, and it's great to see friends in the chat as well on YouTube. So I'm going to read some new poems, and you know, then go about our evening. Al, I just sent you a bunch of poems for after hours, so I'm grateful. I'm going to read some of those that I sent to you. I'm going to start with, you know, I don't drink as much now, but certainly I miss our watering holes. And, you know, Chicago is known for this ridiculous swill. This is called Ode to Malort. Malort is Swedish for wormwood, a plant said to aid the digestive process, which is good because it's a lot to take down. Malort is a liquor that tastes like a nail salon, serves gasoline out the half moon of a rotten grapefruit. The face twists at the shockingly awful aftertaste that lingers and seemingly lasts forever. Carl Jeppson, the Swede immigrant who brought the distressing swill to the Berg in the 30s, admitted the strong, sharp taste is not for everyone. And he might as well be talking about the city itself. The Chicago handshake's an old style and shot. This is the way we stole land from the natives and ushered each race into their own ghetto and convinced the children to fight in wars and turn lathes and dream no bigger than a bungalow. Our dumb fraternal bitterness and ethnic separation, a bar and liquor for each to ease the brutal hawk and soothe the body after a day of laboring for someone else. A dare and bond to blast fire and watch a comrade squirm and laugh and try to forget the day's ceaseless cycle. Malort is a bad idea, like the place itself, built on stink and swamp and a possible source of pride. It's why we love it so much, the undesirable underdog that punches you in the face and takes a piss in your mouth. Yeah, so I, you know, of course, you know, like many of you all and the folks who come before us and inspire us, I write a lot about this, you know, ridiculous place that we call home. So, you know, these are poems that I think will be in a next book of poems. This is called We Don't Love Celebrities Here, We Love the Worker. I saw TJ Jadakowski not long before noon, sitting with his wife on the Brown Line, looking like he just woke up and was in love on a weekday. You might recognize his face, if not his name. Seen him in commercials for fast food drive-ins like it's the 1950s. I know him as TJ in TJ and Dave, a long-form improvised comedy show he'd invent weekly. I didn't know his last name either if I'm going to keep it funky. It's like one of the greatest, it's like seeing one of the greatest trumpeters of a generation and being like, oh yeah, that's that Miles guy. I wanted to say hello, tell him my aunt is Joyce Sloan, den mother with a crazed and hilarious gather. I thought her name would give me some sort of cred. If I thanked him for his labor, it'd mean more. And I think it does somehow. I'd spend most weekends watching the late set, waiting till she took me for pancakes. My Aunt Joyce was not a fraud, I'm pretty sure. She really loved people. She put others on to what was funny and helped those who made the world laugh get their shit together. It didn't always work. The most lively and lovely are sometimes the saddest, and sadly, she isn't here in a city that could use a good laugh. TJ has an organizer in his hands, a day planner, I think, going to an audition, going somewheres this weekday on a train with his love next to him, a craftsman going to get better at the gig. I'm close to introducing myself, to thanking him for being a goat in a city of curses, in a city that makes it up, but I don't say anything. At some point, he leans his head on his wife's or partner's or mistress's, and they seem happy and peaceful, and maybe that's the same thing. Cool. So yeah, so I saw TJ on the Brown Line, but that was when I was living in Albany Park. I lived there for about 10 years or so, and I live in Uptown now. So I ride the red. So this is called Kiss Me Beneath the Red Line. Meet me in Chinatown, where the beams are dressed like dragons, and we could take away Lo Mein and walk Cermak west to the bridge above the river, near the shrimp shack, and sit in a hammock of steel. I once had band practice near the rusted factory turned loft and studios. The band broke up. One rainy night, I slept in the bucket I drove in front of cement mixers whirling like pinwheels. Or meet me at Lawrence, across from the Riviera, where I saw the Beastie Boys and Brian Culhane was kicked out for crowd surfing. After the show, we found him in the alley sick. I lost all I'd written in the liquor store across the street. It was 99 and everything was shit anyway. But loss is sad. The Green Mill is close. Nothing better than being there in a booth, cuddled over candles and drink, or just kiss me tonight before we part on the platform toward Howard, toward Lake to transfer to Blue. These two-story iron wishbones strung through skies and alleys like clotheslines of the greatest architecture our city's ever made. Kiss me here as the browns and purples pass express overhead near Dennis's Arcade. Rest in peace, a late night solace where women were misgendered men and Dance Dance Revolution. I play Miss Pac-Man because there's a chase and a girl, and these repeat like boards or patterns, the therapist I stopped seeing says. At the L&L, the door guy shovels the street inside. We're smashed at the bar, 2 Bushmills and 2 ice cubes each, and all the loud and lousy noise barks orders at the barkeep. But this is the quietest moment I've shared with someone. It is you and I and all the mechanics of chatter house us in private like a blanket at a sleepover. Your head's on my shoulder, and you smell like a girl who's traveled the city by bus. Kiss me beneath these ore trunks carried by car, far from a dug quarry, beneath bullets that speed south overhead. Kiss me beneath the red line, under the mistletoe of wire and bolts. This city needs luck of any kind. Winter is too long stayed. So kiss me beneath the red line before we return to our homes and jobs and sober. Make our mouths electric wheels, our hips grinding, a shower of sparks falling to the street below. All right. And this is, I got a puppy during this time, a quarantine COVID puppy, I guess, although that's, doing the dog a misservice and certainly misnaming her. Her name is Minnow. She is definitely the young little homie. She's a 8-month-old mini golden doodle. My partner is hypoallergenic and we needed particular kind of dog. But, her and I, especially on the weekends, we like to, run around together, go for a lot of walks. So last weekend we went, it was her first time going to the Riverwalk in Albany Park along the North Branch. And so this came to me. This is called Ode to Under the Bridge. When there is no quiet, the only space you could find to hear yourself breathe, beneath the overhead rustle of traffic in the muttering river, my whole life traceable along the North Branch, where many a gray day I wound my way home. I sought a spot here, the meadow, the porous concrete where all the weird suburban kids drank Mad Dog and Mickey's, and a clown portrait of John Wayne Gacy hung, meant to keep the normal ones with a good GPA and 2 parents away, while the rest of us lived in the unincorporated, went fatherless, looking for excuses and answers only to discover dime bags on ourselves, a palace of stone and echo, a spot to bum a square or cry your eyes out, a country a few folks know or no one does. Karen Spar took me there that few weeks my girl was gone. A bit further south, graffiti writers congregate and practice throw-ups, a living museum of bubble letters carried to the water's ripple, Drain, Liz, Toro, a gaggle of geese, a couple of ducks, the great robin announcing spring, where the houseless construct pop-up shelters for themselves and one another. They do what the government refuses, care and take care and recycle and gather one another on the embankment, a nest, a community I wander with rhymes in my head, trying to get the guts to leave something behind like fall. All right. So I got these 2 more pieces. This one is kind of like an extension of that last one in some ways. Idris knows this well, but you know, my I guess hobby is I just like to follow in the footsteps of graffiti writers. I've been doing this ever since I was a kid. You know, one of the first times I rode the red line and saw, you know, literally the writing on the wall and was just taken with what was happening, that seemed very dangerous and illegal and like a superhero did it. So one of the ways I kind of quiet myself is to just you know, follow. So this poem was just published in Belt magazine. It's called Meditations in the Decline of Western Civilization. I'm here to clear my mind in pursuit of superheroes the city's criminalized. Hop wire-cut fences into empty lots and walk warehouses and industrial parks. This is how I ground myself. I follow the writing on the wall. Who are the masked avengers lurking in the alleys, beautifying the expressway, renovating forgotten storefronts with fonts on lonely water towers, letters, a story, high, facts, rojo, decorate the interstate. I chew in every corner of New Orleans. In St. Louis, I think of Kink and the LD crew. In Detroit, Pear and Beggar, after MSK painted the city back to life in factories they were supposed to work in. The children write epitaphs on the machinery that claimed their parents. In El Paso, I walked for hours alone along paused rail cars to see how permeable and ridiculous borders are, how ingenious codes of the marginalized develop to circumnavigate gates and walls to communicate and infuriate ICE agents and despots. Who knows the land better than writers? That west of Cicero, all the way local toward Hinsdale, the salt factory has become a greenhouse, a pasture of daffodils and sunflowers. All right, y'all. Thank you guys so much. You guys are an incredible crew and audience. I got this last joint for y'all. You know, as I said, the young little minnow loves the beach. And so, you know, she thinks she's surfing out on Foster Avenue there. I'm just throwing a stick and but, you know, in her mind. But this is, you know, about, yeah, maybe, I don't know, like that spot. This is the most beautifulest thing in this world after Keith Murray ending on William Carlos Williams. The most beautifulest thing in this world is the lakefront at Foster Ave on a Saturday in July, when the high's in the mid-80s and the water's igloo cooler cold, which keeps no kid out and no family from packing a day's worth of fire and food and hand-portable tunes. The melting pot's a myth, because 100 countries show out today. Sand-colored kurtas, multi-patterned kaftans, Jordan jerseys, bikinis, and burqas. The world's outdone itself, and everyone's here, despite the city's insistent segregation. Land, sky, and lake, where the maintenance of boredom and other is broken down. Afghanis play touch football long enough to become bros. Sudanese grill Hebrew Franks, and Latinx children are very much with their families. Ice has melted, except the paletas. The man who fused a refrigerator and bicycle together stands for 1,000 years. The sun's made his skin the color of tobacco, lines in his face, and the line for his cool a canyon. A group of fully clothed women are unbothered in hijabs, dunking each other in refreshing water, aunties laughing and splashing like little girls. Ghanaian stews and charcoal feed the air and the heat, and children chase a soccer ball onto another patch of grass no one owns unless we all do. A mother has a moment all to herself while her two boys discover the porousness of land and lake. She sways, gazing at the horizon, the point where earth and sky miscegenate freely. Hands off development, hands off government, hands off displacement. Let us chill. Imagine what'll happen if we can't. Make the old warehouse a condo barn if you must, but leave the lake to the people. Let us sit here till sundown, till the giant Midwestern sky turns the whole place purple enough for a print show. Let us gather our kids and load up the car and scramble to Miko's for an Italian ice in a baby cup. All of us deserved of something so sweet and so cold. Thank you all. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you. Appreciate the space and the time.
Wow. Thank you, Kevin. That was just awesome. Just awesome.
You killed it. Killed it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hey, Kevin, I want to bring you back for a second, ask you a couple of questions, just like I did with Idris. Kurt, I'm wondering how we could get the light back on Kevin. Well, maybe that'll just happen. So, I thought it was nice that Idris was giving a recommendation to somebody else's book. And I wonder if you might want to do that and then tell us which of your books you would most like us to get.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, a book that we're also excited about that's about to come out into the world is by an incredible poet, Cheryl Boyce Taylor, who is, lives in lives in Brooklyn, but raised her family in Queens, but is from the West Indies. And Cheryl is the mother of one of my favorite rappers, Phife Dawg, from A Tribe Called Quest. And Phife passed, a number of years ago. And so this book is Cheryl's lamenting of the passing of her son. And it's a beautiful, brilliant treatise about, living and dying and motherhood and what loss is, and also just an incredible tribute to an incredible poet by an incredible poet. So Cheryl's book is called Mama Phife Represents, and it's out on Haymarket and Breakbeat very soon. I'll tell you, Idris's book, which I very much love, is really incredible. And then I'll say, I know you didn't ask for all this, Nina. My favorite book that I read in 2020 outside of homies is a memoir and I guess autobiography by Dapper Dan, the garmento and fashion designer in Harlem. It's called Made in Harlem, and it's incredible.
So that's great. I want to go back to Cheryl Boyce Taylor, right? I've never met her actually. And when is that book going to be coming out?
I think it's out. I think she's already doing events for it. So I think that if it's not out, I certainly know you can pre-order it and pre-order it on Haymarket. But I know she's already doing events. So I think that it might be out or about to be out. Yeah.
Well, if you would tell her we'd love to feature her.
Yes, of course.
To quiet down a little bit, and maybe you could help connect us, because from what you're saying, it's a book we're not going to want to miss out on.
No, that's a great idea. Yeah, I would love to. Thank you.
And in the meantime, which of your books would you most recommend that people buy if they want to just get one book by Kevin Coval?
Yeah, I mean, the last, you favored probably your most recent. So the last one, which is Everything Must Go, The Life and Death of an American Neighborhood, which is, about Wicker Park in the 90s and its transition. I kind of write about Wicker from probably 92 to 2002, but it's probably, I hope it's doing the work of kind of accounting for how neighborhoods are in transition really around the world. I mean, Wicker Park is, reminds me of any of these neighborhoods that are radically shifting and trying to ask the questions about, well, what will working people do and where will they live and what kind of culture and city then do we want moving forward? It's trying to ask some of those questions. So
is that prose, poetry, both?
It is poems. Yeah, it's poems, but yeah, I mean, I guess there's some prose poems in there. But yeah, and it's also illustrated, I should say it's also illustrated by a really talented young visual artist named Langston Alston. And so, some of the poems, have their own treatment and, their own illustration to accompany it. I want to show you one of them. Oh, well, like some of it he made like his own, like almost like cartoon, so it's like almost like a graphic novel in that way as well, some of it. And then, yeah, he's done such a good job of tributing some of the people that I knew there. And yeah.
Very, very, thank you so much. And there's one other question I wanted to ask you, which is, do you want to share just a little bit about YCA and Louder Than a Bomb? So for those who don't know anything about it, or for those who do but don't know where it's at in the present, might learn a bit.
Yeah, no, yeah. Young Chicago Authors is we're going on, I think, 30 years as a nonprofit youth arts organization in Chicago. It started by a writer named Dr. Bob Boone, and has evolved to become, a space for young creatives, not only in Chicago, but really around the country, if not the world. We do a regular Tuesday open mic now on Instagram Live. And then we continue, actually Saturdays, Idris and I teach our drop-in Check the Method creative writing workshop, which is for all ages and all levels of experience. We have our students right now range in that space from 15 to 78. So it really is like a, come all. And you're guaranteed to leave with 2 pieces started. Idris and I each teach a workshop on Saturdays. And Louder Than a Bomb is the Chicago Youth Poetry Festival that started in Chicago in 2001. And we're about to celebrate our 21st season this year. And it is, grown to, from a handful of teams in the basement of the Chopin Theater. Kurt, you might have been there that first year. To now we have, over 80, 90 teams all over the Chicagoland area. It brings together teams of high school poets to compete every spring. And in addition to the festival in Chicago, there are 19 other cities across North America who do their own version of Louder Than a Bomb. And so from Toronto to Trinidad, there are cities organizing and using the pedagogy that we've helped to develop and share with other folks, but just really doing this work. Nina, it's what you and Al do in this space. It's bringing together people around story and the word, and communing in ways that are not just watching television, but it's this kind of share and using the tool to actively try to desegregate one of the most segregated cities in the country. And so that's the work that we're trying to do there.
For those people who are listening, how would they connect up with the workshop you and Idris do? Instagram.
Just Idris and I both put it out on social media, and it's just our names on any platform. But also Young Chicago Authors, youngchicagoauthors.org has a workshop page, and they put out, it's a Zoom call, so we gather in Zoom, and they'll send you the link, and once you have it once, it's good in for the trimester or whatever. But it's a lot of fun. I get a lot out of it, both as a facilitator, but I also write during Idris's workshop, so I try to sneak in some writing at that time too. And it's we get great writers in the space, and so it really is that we have people who are published, and we have people who've never published in the space. And so if you want to come and hang with us on Saturdays, please, you are encouraged.
Thank you very much. Everybody, let's give a hand one more time for Kevin.
Yes. Thank you again.
Let this love go out to both of you and to everybody on YouTube and everyone in this wonderful open mic. We're here on the second Monday of every month, and hope to see you again soon. And again, don't be shy about putting money into Kevin and Idris's Venmo accounts or buying their books. Welcome to 2021. I really believe it's going to be getting better.
Yes, thanks to everybody. I couldn't say it better than Nina just did, and thanks Kurt also for keeping it going. So
You're welcome, guys. Good to see all the
yeah,
other.
Idris
Thanks,
and
everybody.
Kevin, great jobs. We'll
Thanks.
see you all around somewhere, probably online. Take
Thank you
care.
all
We'll
so
be in
much.
touch,
Sounds
guys.
good.
Okay. All right.
And
Thank you.
see you, Len.
Take
Good
care.
night, everyone.
Bye.